everybody, it's Scott Bunce, and I'm really excited today because I have the opportunity to share with you Kevin McCarthy. Kevin came to my Vistage group and he gave a great presentation to the group all around what I would describe as personal branding. Kevin, I'm going to let you describe it, but I've been through a lot of presentations, Kevin, where we have gone through branding processes of businesses. But as you know, I'm dealing with senior executives, and what I thought set your presentation apart was putting together mission and vision and values for businesses. Yeah, that's for other speakers, but you've allowed us as senior executives, small business owners, to do it for ourselves. And I thought this would be a great way to share, at least in part, of the work that you're doing with some of the people that I'm sharing this with, and they would really get something out of it. So, Kevin, why don't we start out with maybe a little bit about you, your background, you've written several books. Give us a little thumbnail, and then let's launch into what you're professing along the way.
Sure. Well, I'm an entrepreneur from the very almost out of the womb, I think, at some point. So I have a proclivity for business, and I love what business is, particularly capitalism, the best of capitalism. There's a lot of dark sides to capitalism, but the best of capitalism. And so, in the course of my work and my businesses, I started a consulting practice in the late 80s, 1980s, and primarily around strategy. And what I found, Scott, and thank you for having me here, by the way. What I found, Scott, was that the clients I was working with, that we could fix a lot of their business issues that were going on, but the better they became at becoming a leader, the better their business became. And so a lot of times as I built the relationship with them in their business, I then earned the right to be closer to their heart, if you will. And so that then began sort of a strategic planning process for me, which I call on purpose, the on purpose approach. And the on purpose approach is an integration of life and work. And so the time that I was with your group, I really consider not necessarily personal branding so much as it is personal leadership. And it starts the essence of that is the articulation of one's purpose, vision, mission, and values in that order. So you can see this little poster behind me is this little guy, and purpose is the heart, vision is the head, missions are the hands and feet, and it's hard to see, but there's a stomach and a throat. Those are your values. So when your heart, your head, and your hands are aligned within your values, yeah, there you go, are aligned within your values, then you're on your purpose. And so purpose is the preeminent piece. And one of the things we did in the session with your group is we did their two-word purpose statements. And for most people, articulating purpose and values of those four statements, those four strategic leadership statements, vision is usually pretty easy. Missions, this is what we do. But purpose and values are often those deeper things that are harder to extract. And so what we did is we articulated that. And the reason for that being is I found that if I can help somebody know their purpose, vision, mission, and values, then that translates also to a company. Because first of all, if they don't understand what purpose, vision, mission, and values are and the differences at a sort of a visceral human level, then how do you translate it into a corporate, more head thought, more head level? And that way you now are cementing both concepts, both individually and organizationally. And that way they can move forward. So that was why my focus with your group was really on the personal leadership side, hoping that they can then translate that over to the organizational leadership aspects.
I thought it was really cool because when you were taking us through this, you took it right online and you brought us through a model of trying to get to our two-word statement. And it was very interactive. It was something that didn't take very long to work your way through. But at least in my case, I loved where it ended. So my two-word statement was liberating greatness. And to me, as an executive coach and peer-to-peer guide for executives, liberating greatness were two words I probably would not have naturally put together, but by going through your process, it ended up in a great spot.
Oh, that's great. I mean, and again, the preamble to individual purpose statements is I exist to serve by liberating greatness. So there's a, we're sort of taking it out of a context of a larger presentation, if you will. But that may help people understand that that preamble exists, and then this idea of liberating and in greatness. So liberating is the activity that you're about, and then the greatness is the result that you're about. Now, of course, as I shared in our session, this is first something that is deeply received, needs to be deeply received by you and owned by you, and then in turn given out. So it's first for you. So at one point in your life, if you didn't feel so great, with so much greatness, perhaps, what was it that moved you through that? So it's kind of that double-edged sword where the thing that we struggle with the most is often the thing we most want to help other people with. So purpose statements are really fascinating in that regard because now, you've got a little bit of gray hair in your head, so you've been through life. You understand this maybe better than some of the younger people where they're looking at it and they see this crisis that's there and they think that's what their life is ruined or it's gone, as opposed to understanding, wait a minute, that was a refining fire. And that refining fire has made me a better person. It's made me a better business person, maybe a better husband or a father or whatever it may be. So it is this double-edged sword of a purpose statement where when we're younger, it is often aspirational. But as we mature, and I'm not going to say get older because there's a lot of mature young people. As we mature, we now have perspective and context for things, and so they are not so disturbing for us. And so purpose statements are extraordinarily powerful because they are answering this "why do I exist" question, and they rest deeply on our heart and they inform us in terms of our life, our relationships, and our work life as well.
I love it. So tell me a few more of the steps of taking people through this and getting them to where they need to be. If you'll explain what you do in these sessions and how it applies, that would be fantastic.
Well, again, we have a tool called it's onpurpose.me is the tool. That's an online tool where anybody can go in and purchase the tool and use it. The application of your purpose statement, it really then comes into if your purpose is your why and vision is where you want to go, missions are how you're going to get there, and values are how you're choosing of all these opportunities or options available to you. Then that's where it gets very practical. So these are not just simply strategic statements that are meant to sort of throw on a wall or just do it once and put it away. They're meant to be living documents in that sense, living strategy. So a lot of times what I find is most people will, when they find themselves in sort of chaos and confusion, and they're wondering, who am I, or why is this happening to me, or what is going on? That's usually whenever they're likely to turn towards these purpose, vision, mission, and values. So in a difficult time, it's wonderful to have those statements. However, in a more positive environment, if you're sitting there and thinking, I have an opportunity to maybe sell my business, what would I do afterwards? Or I have an opportunity to create a new business, or I want to leave a company and start a consultancy, or whatever it may be, that there's these transitional things that you're looking at. And when you're able to run it through your personal purpose, vision, mission, and values and say, does this align? So it gives a deep internal benchmark of accountability that otherwise you might just go, well, it feels good, do it. You remember that expression? If it feels good, do it. Well, I mean, there's a lot of things that feel good that really aren't good for you. I mean, so, and so it's the sort of thing where now you can say, yeah, that feels right, but now let me process it through these 4 questions. Why am I here? Where am I going? How will I get there? And what's important? And you're less likely to get yourself into trouble. And the same thing then, again, if I could help a business leader get that right about their life, then in their work, if they apply those same principles on the job, either interacting with people or designing a business strategy or writing a brochure or whatever it may be that they're about in their work, when they start to look at it and say, why are we writing this brochure? What's our vision for it? How are we going to get it done? And what's really important that's going on? Now, all of a sudden, these things have very practical applications from what seems to be mundane to the majestic, if you will.
Right, right. So you're, I don't know, this is just my way of describing, but you're in the business of refining and getting people to look inside themselves. When you think back of all the coaching, mentoring, presentations you've done, is there one instance where an individual, you don't have to give a name, but an individual that stood out that just had an aha moment, or you could see the transformation right there live?
Yes, numerous times. Oh, I was doing a workshop. I mean, this is a very personal example, not for me, but for this woman that was in. Her purpose statement was bringing light, and she was she was an office manager for a group of 13 men who were salespeople, outside salespeople for a medical device company. And she was lovely, just wonderful, wonderful human being. I mean, I was with these people for a day and a half. And I said to her at one point, her name was Linda. I said, Linda, has there been a time in your life where bringing light, where you felt like you were in darkness? At which point her head dropped and her eyes fell and she broke into tears. And at that point, I stopped the meeting and I grabbed her and I said, let's go outside and talk. And she actually shared with me that um, her darkness was something that she'd never told anybody, but she'd been raped as an 18-year-old girl when she was a freshman in college.
Mm.
And that was the darkness, and it brought that up and how she wanted to get out of that darkness. It was hidden. Her husband didn't know, her boss didn't know, her parents didn't know, her siblings didn't know. And so I was the first person she told. And then her boss, who was a wonderful guy, I said, "Would you mind sharing with him?" And she says, "No, he's like a brother to me." He came in, she shared with him. Talk about a transformation in her life on a personal level. I mean, in terms of just the having that deep abscess pierced and healed over a period of time. So we have a lot of very personal stories like that. Now, on the business side, we will also see, I've also had clients where, we talk about their two-word purpose statement, and they all of a sudden, as an organization, they look at it and go, wow, because now there's a point of clarity. We've been sort of wandering in the wilderness, so to speak, trying to do all these things. Now we have a point of clarity. So that point of clarity now means that they can run decisions through that point of clarity. And when you don't have clarity, you have muddled. And when you have muddled, if the leader is muddled, then the team is muddled. If the team is muddled, then the customers are muddled. If the customers are muddled, the business is now not doing as well. So what this does is it narrows down the focus. And whenever you get to that degree of specificity and it's meaningful, now everything can align much better. And as a result of alignment, then the business can integrate better. And as a business integrates better, it's almost like a hose with a nozzle on it, or a power washer. What that power washer can do with the same amount of water that a hose might have is amazing, because of the nozzle and the power that's coming through it. Without that nozzle, though, it's just blah. And so what happens is the power of purpose. I mean, I generally tell clients, I cannot guarantee this because I don't know how they're going to implement it. But I say, when you clearly articulate your purpose, vision, mission, and values, you communicate it and you implement it into your organization's business plan. And from the business plan, it goes to the external audience, which is the sales, marketing, branding part, and the internal audience, which is the cultural part. When those things merge at the other end, it is a extraordinarily powerful place. And like I said, I say we can look at a 25% improvement in sales and or profits, or both, within a year as a result of that kind of focus. What I can't guarantee, the reason I can't guarantee that is because I don't know how well the client's going to implement.
Right. Right. Always comes back to,
Yeah.
yeah,
And yet
what you do with that information and how well you execute it.
the clients that we do have that whenever they implement it, I mean, I'm understating the value of it to them.
Yep, I'm sure.
Okay.
So Kevin, we're starting to run low on time.
Sure.
I want to cover maybe two things here. One, I know you're working on a new book. Maybe you could talk about what that project is all about. And then let's wind up with how do people get a hold of you, learn more about what you have to offer, your books and your presentations.
Sure. Well, I think let's just talk about the current books that exist. The flagship book is The On Purpose Person and The On Purpose Business Person. Those are the books that if somebody says, what should I read? And basically, if you're interested in business, do The On Purpose Business Person. If you're really interested in your life, read The On Purpose Person. If you're unsure, read The On Purpose Person, because that's where you break in. As you can see, it starts with the personal leadership piece. Then I've got a book called Chief Leadership Officer. You can see that right behind me here. And that book is really designed for larger CEOs that have a team, a leadership team, sort of a C-suite, about the future of business and how it's going to look differently, or how it needs to look differently is maybe the better way to describe it. And then the book that I'm working on right now is actually a book called No Brain Picking. It's a book for consultants, for new consultants. And the idea is that, and here the first perspective, it's 25 perspectives for new consultants to know so they can thrive and be profitable. But no brain picking is one of those things where, Scott, you probably experienced this as a business owner and now as a Vistage person. Somebody calls you up and says, "Hey, Scott, let's get together and have lunch. I want to pick your brain." Well, as a consultant, your brain is your intellectual horsepower. That is also the value that you have. And so the answer should be no. If it's a friend, let's have a social meeting. And if they're a really good friend, let them pick your brain. I'm not saying not to. But if it's a client that calls you up and says, "Hey, I want to pick your brain," say no. I'd sooner, if we're going to do something, let's schedule an appointment. Let's have it and do it right, because over lunch is not the best place to do that. And I will be billing you, or it's included in the contract or whatever it may be. Again, these are the sort of things. But otherwise, if you don't have that, you're just going to get fat and broke as a consultant. So that's kind of the essence of this new book that I'm working on right now. Probably be out in the next 90 days or so. I don't know. We'll see, somewhere in that time frame.
Exciting.
And then to get a hold of me, they can go to kevinwmccarthy.com or to go to onpurpose.com. Either of those websites will come to me. One is my personal website, and the other is our company website.
Well, again, thank you, Kevin, for sharing all of that, and love the direction of what I saw, what the team that I work with experienced. I think you've got a tremendous perspective, and it was unique, right? It was not what you would do with an average business, but I think you get yourself right, then you can make your business right, and that was my takeaway along the way.
Good takeaway. Amen.
All right, all the best, and again,
Thank
thank you
you.
for the time.